Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Squawka Talker Podcast. And with another marathon of games incoming this weekend, we have a packed show of previews and predictions for the games to come. The Premier League and FA Cup take centre stage in English football with the race for the top four, and the last four kicks off in earnest in the next 48 hours. On the continent, we have Monaco against PSG, a Rome derby as Lazio take on Roma, and then to wrap up on Sunday night, the small matter of Carlo versus Xavi in the final El Clásico of the season. So plenty to get through, 10 games we're going to be previewing on today's show. My name's Feargal Brennan, and with the international call-ups all floating around at the moment, we have seen our squad trimmed down this week. But never fear, the one club man, Tony Hibbert, Paul Scholes, rolled into one, the guy who bleeds Squawka red, Mohammed Butt. Mo, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Thankfully, not bleeding right now, but yes, indeed, if you cut me, the Squawka logo just pours out of my veins. That's a really.
To be honest, looking through
too hard about that one.
Looking through the names of one club men, when I was trying to build that intro and build you up, it was just a who's who of people that you wouldn't want to be associated with. So take it from me, Paul Scholes and Tony Hibbert are probably the best of a bad lot. You'll be happy with that if you actually check out the other one club.
Come on now.
Yeah, but there's a list of a guy who, let's just say a gentleman that played for Chelsea with distinction and a gentleman that played Manchester United with distinction that were the first names on the list, and I thought Mo doesn't want to be connected with them. So Hibbert and Scholes we're going with, right? No, definitely not. Right, so let's get.
They're right there.
Oh, come on. Right, I blame Wikipedia for this. Right, so we're going to start off with Aston Villa against Arsenal in Premier League action. Premier League and FA Cup have split the weekend up. So we've kind of got a bit of a split screen thing going on with cup action and the day job of the Premier League. The Steven Gerrard, Mikel Arteta derby, a bit of a kind of offshoot of a Merseyside derby. Obviously, Liverpool captain up against Everton legend. I think it's fair to call him that. I think most Everton fans have relatively fond memories of Mikel Arteta. And based on player profile, if this was a boxing match, Gerrard wins by knockout punch. But if we're looking at them as coaches, despite Gerrard's success at Rangers and the improvement that he's brought to Aston Villa, Arteta wins on a point decision. The TV are going to be going mad for this. The narrative, Gerrard 4 wins from 6 against Arteta when they were Liverpool and Everton players. Arteta famously scoring Everton's last winner against Liverpool prior to them winning last season. So there's lots of narrative swirling around. But as an Arsenal fan, I'm going to have to say this. I'm viewing this in the prism of losing to Liverpool last night, and I just want a reaction. Steven Gerrard's made a really good impact on the Premier League, but Arteta and Arsenal need to react.
Yeah, they definitely do, because of course one of the great hallmarks of every big side, every great side, which Arsenal of course are aiming to be. I mean, obviously they're a big side, but you know what I mean, like an elite team. Where again, also haven't been an elite team for since 2007, 2008, maybe last time. So, Arsenal trying to get back there, right? And it's so the hallmark of those teams is how they respond to defeat. Everyone can lose a game. Anyone can lose a game. Well, except Arsenal 2003-04 in there before you said it, Arsenal fans. Any team can lose. Any team can lose a game. It's how you respond to that loss, right? And all the great teams respond to losses. City lose a game, then they go win 14 in a row, right? Liverpool lose again, they win back the next game. Man United, who are frankly, obviously now they're a joke, but before they were great. Under Fergie, how often did they lose 2 in a row? It's so very rarely, right? Over 25 years, they would always respond. So he lost to Liverpool. It happens. Liverpool are one of the 2 best teams in the world, frankly, along with Man City. So how do you respond to that? There's no Tomiyasu, which I think is the big thing, is the biggest weakness and the biggest problem Arsenal have right now, because so much of their defensive solidity and structure was keyed off. He's basically a shutdown fullback, right? The same way that Wan-Bissaka was before Solskjaer degraded and corroded him, right? He's a shutdown fullback. He defended that flank brilliantly. Very few people got past him. Very few teams got joy down that flank. He's not there. Cedric's his backup. Cedric's not as good, obviously. And so now the right flank is something to be exploited. Liverpool did it twice for both their goals, right? Ben White is the weaker of the 2 Arsenal centre-backs. And so you'll get the weaker centre-back, you've got a backup right back, and that's an area you can get at, right? But the rest of the team, obviously, Odegaard is playing fantastically well. Thomas Partey, I thought, was excellent at Anfield. Really, really good. Not Anfield, sorry, Emirates. He was really, really good. I thought he really held his own. Him and Thiago it was a really good battle to watch. And Gabriel, as always, Gabriel was fantastic. And Martinelli, oh my days. It was so telling after the match. And Robertson and Klopp were like, Trent defended him really well. They're like, Trent, you did really well, son. They were really obviously trying to pick him up because he got killed time and time again. And, that's not to say Trent is rubbish or Trent is finished or whatever, but it's just Martinelli was really good. Was really, really, really good. And the kind of deadly, dangerous performance where you're sort of thinking, oh my days, there's an absolute killer in this boy waiting to be unleashed, like when he gets a bit older and a bit more mature. So the tools are there for Arsenal to rebound. I'm thinking mainly Thomas Partey, Martin Odegaard, and who was very tenacious in the tackle, by the way. Didn't create too much, but very good in the tackle. And then Martinelli as well. With those three, I think that Arsenal have a bit of hope. But Villa, though, can't write them off either.
Well, there's going to be a bit of an eye on the playmakers. Felipe Coutinho has come in on loan from Barcelona. He's hit the ground running, 4 goals, 3 assists. He's got this fantastic relationship with Gerrard. They seem to have a real bromance going on. But Odegaard has developed into a hub for Arsenal in this team this season. He's 6th in the Premier League for key passes, 49 so far this season. Similar numbers when it comes to passes into the area, 46th. And my new favourite stat that I've dug up this week is he's 4th in the Premier League for shot creating actions per game. So this is essentially the hockey pass, creating a situation where a shot is executed. And on average, he creates between 4 and 5 of those a game. Now, whether Arsenal actually stick them in the net is a different story.
Right,
but these two are going to have a really important role to play, albeit in slightly different positions. Do you think that could be the difference in this one?
Yeah, I do. And I think the reason why I don't think Arsenal will get the win they want to get, sorry, spoiler, is I think that Coutinho, I think, is going to exploit exactly what Liverpool did, that Ben White and Cedric. And I think that's Coutinho target. I think they're going to really isolate them in that area. They're going to attack that area, and I think they're going to get some joy. And I think they will deny Arsenal the win. I don't think that Arsenal are going to lose. I think it's going to be a draw. I think 1-1. To be perfectly clear, I think 1-1 draw is about right, because I do think Arsenal probably will have the better of the game, but I think ultimately Villa have got a combative enough midfield that they can limit or stop Odegaard from running wild over them. No, because he has the potential to do that. He's phenomenal. He really, really is. So, and he's playing really well. I'm really glad to see that. I'm really glad to see he's really coming into his own. And we're seeing Martin Odegaard from the first half of 2019-20 with Real Sociedad, rather than Martin Odegaard from the second half of 1920 with Real Sociedad, which was what we saw last season, which was a bit timid, a bit not really dominant. Right now, we're seeing dominant Odegaard. It's great. And I think Villa will have enough to limit him, or at least slow him enough that Arsenal aren't going to run roughshod over Villa. So I think 1-1 is about right. I think Arsenal may score first, but I think Coutinho will eventually eke out an equaliser, whether he scores it himself or sets it up. I think through that, exploiting Ben White and Cedric.
Villa fans won't forgive us if we don't talk about Jacob Ramsey as well. Last season, a bit stop-start for him, breaking into the first team, but he's made himself a real force under Gerrard. I actually think Gerrard sees a little bit of himself in him in terms of his style, his movement, the way that he carries the ball. And strangely, in the post-Jack Grealish era at Aston Villa, someone like Ramsey is actually flourishing, because last season there was so much focus on Grealish. Get the ball to Grealish. Grealish will turn the game for us. Grealish will win the game for us. There's a huge amount of wide open grass now for players to burst into. And Jacob Ramsey's taken advantage of that, because Jack Grealish is a very, very good player. But when he's playing for an Aston Villa, it is always going to be about him. When you remove a player like that from a side like Aston Villa, you get a Jacob Ramsey suddenly starting to flourish.
Yeah, and of course, Coutinho is almost a better number 10 for someone like Ramsey, because Grealish got the ball and likes to run with it himself. That's what he likes to do, he's a dribbler. Coutinho dribbles, but Coutinho also likes to get the ball, stay still, and have others move around him. And I think that's why he and Ramsey Ramsey's doing so well with Coutinho in the side, because Coutinho gets the ball and he's holding it and he's waiting for runners, and Ramsey is a great runner. He's got great movement, really, really smart, intelligent movement into space. He's got great pace, and he's just, he's a fantastic dynamic player. Same thing with John McGinn, same thing with potentially Ollie Watkins. So there's lots of good players at Villa who suit having Coutinho as the hub. Ramsey is definitely one of them, and it's good to see him thrive. It's good to see young players come through like this and really take their chance. And Ramsey has. I mean, because like you said, I mean, under Gerrard, really, he was doing well before, but under Gerrard, and especially since Coutinho arrived, he's just gone. So he'll have a big factor to play in this game, I think.
And if you're a fan of Jacob Ramsey, if you're a Villa fan, or if you're just a Ramsey fanboy, we're doing a brief video on him next week. So you can check that out if you want to get a bit more of a deep dive, a bit more details of how Jacob Ramsey's been impacting at Aston Villa this season. Anyone that listens to the podcast regularly will know that I can't bet against Arsenal. It's just not within me. We could be playing against Guardiola's Barcelona, and I still would predict it, which we did, and we got beat as well when we played in those games. So I'm going to go with a win, going to go with a narrow 1-0 win. And I'm basing this on, at the start of the season, when we got beaten by a better side, when we lost to Man City in August, we bounced back and won. When we lost against Liverpool in November, we bounced back and beat Newcastle. I know that hasn't always been the case when we've lost a game. It's taken us a little while to get motored back up again, but I'm choosing to go with the positive that it's a 50-50 situation of how Arsenal bounce back from a result like this. And I'm going with positive because we're in a strong position to get top four, and the blinkers just need to be on for that between now and the end of the season. So 1-0 Arsenal is my call in that game. We're going to move on to FA Cup action. Middlesbrough against Chelsea. Obviously, giant killers Middlesbrough. They've knocked out Manchester United. They've knocked out Tottenham. And Chris Wilder's kind of brought a bit of a Sheffield United vibe to the Riverside. He's gone with his famous back three. Not as much bursting forward from his overlapping centre-backs as he was doing at Bramall Lane. At Middlesbrough, a little bit more focused on the defensive side of it. And up against Chelsea, they're arguably the benchmark for a back three. They're the biggest Premier League side to play with a back three. But the knock-on benefit really for both sides, whether it's Thomas Tuchel or Chris Wilder, is how it brings their wing-backs into the game. So the two guys that we've flagged up for this are Isaiah Jones for Middlesbrough and Reece James for Chelsea. Jones, depending on how much Middlesbrough championship football you watch, he's been excellent this season. 9 championship assists, nearly 2 dribbles per game. It's only Jed Spence and Festia Borselli who are better than him in the championship. And then you flick it over to James, 5 assists from right back. I know we're living in a Trent Alexander world, but that's still massively impressive. Averages half an assist per 90 minutes, which for a right wing back is pretty good going. And they're not going to come into direct competition because they're playing on opposite sides of the pitch, but they could be decisive in how this game goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and I think one thing that is Reece James has been really good. Those stats are good, but what you have to remember is also he's missed like a third of the season through injury, and Chelsea were rubbish when he was that injured. By the way, he's a really, really special player, and just because he's not Trent Alexander-Arnold doesn't mean that we should look down on it. I think it's almost like if you recall the days of Maicon versus Dani Alves over a decade ago. It's similar to that because on the one hand, Reece James is basically the perfect fullback. He can defend, he can attack, he's positionally very sound, he can play a back four, back three, right? He's basically everything you want. And then Trent is not even a fullback almost. He's something completely different, like Dani Alves was. It's almost like they're different players. They play the same position. Ostensibly, they play the same position on the pitch, but they're not. They play different roles, different positions. Trent is completely something new and unique. Well, he's not new, but he's unique. Reece James is great. I love Borough. I think they're really good. They've come to United and they outplayed United, frankly, and got the win they deserved. I mean, they rode their luck a bit in the first half, and the penalty was a baffling decision. But they played one. They got the result they deserved, frankly, in the shootout as well. And they played Spurs, and they did the same thing. They outplayed Spurs. They got the result they deserved. And I think, honestly, they'll do the same again. Chelsea are not. They're okay. They're doing well enough. They're beating teams they should beat because they have better players than the teams they're playing. And so you should think that will follow through to Borough. But unlike Lille and unlike other Chelsea opponents recently, Borough really are a hard fighting team. And also Chelsea got to get a bus up there, man. That's a 4-hour journey. I mean, look, I've got it on Google Maps. Hang on, wait. I've got it on Google Maps. Right now, if they left right now, it's 4 hours, 29 minutes, right? It's not going to be that at the weekend. It will be a bit longer. It's like you're talking a 5-hour journey. It's all fun and games to make fun of Chelsea for this and they got to get a bus, make a bus, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, when you are elite footballer, you're an elite footballer, it makes a difference to your recovery time, to your prep time, to the way you prepare for a game. It makes a difference. It does make a difference. Yep. Now, it's not going to make the world. Maybe Chelsea will not be like shocking. They'll roll out of there looking half awake or whatnot. But I believe it will make enough of a difference that the Borough can actually hold them and maybe get something from this.
So give us your call on this. 2 giant killings so far this season, United and Spurs. Can Borough do it again?
Yeah, 1-0 Borough.
1-0 Borough. I agree. I think the boss and Mason Mount playing word searches and playing cards with Cesar Azpilicueta is going to make a difference. But I just think Tuchel's able to create a bit of a siege mentality. I know that's stealing from the Mourinho playbook, but he is able to do that between now and the end of the season. And particularly in games like this, I think they'll have enough. So I'm going to go with the Chelsea win. I'm going to go 2-0 Chelsea. Borough have been excellent, but I think 3 giant killings is probably a little bit of a step too far. Jed Spence, who we mentioned there, we're going to be talking about a bit later on when we talk about Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. But big shout out to Festi Ebusele. Born on my birthday. I was already a big fan of him. Now I'm a massive fan of him. The boy's going to be a star. Whether he stays at Derby or not, the boy is going to be a star. So watch out for Festi Ebusele. We're going to flick across to France. Monaco against PSG. Just quick fire prediction on this, Mo, because PSG have got the feeling of the end of a party this season. They feel like, when you're trying to get people out of the house after a party. That's what it feels like at PSG after they've been knocked out of the Premier League. There was booze last weekend. Messi, Neymar, Verratti, Hakimi. Everyone was getting real negative vibes from the PSG fans. And do they have a point? Do you have any tears for Messi and Neymar out of the Champions League?
You don't boo your own players, man. You don't boo your own players when the match is after the match. If they've been rubbish, sure, boo them all you want. But during the match, you support your own players, man. PSG are not a real football club, man. They're a fashion brand come to life. It's a joke. They're such a joke of a club. It's honestly embarrassing that they have enough wealth to accumulate players of the talent and stature of Messi, Verratti, Kylian Mbappe. It's embarrassing. Neymar belongs there. That's his perfect club for someone like him. He's obsessed with celebrity and image, and that's perfect. Live in Paris, mate. It's embarrassing to watch. It's honestly pathetic. But I'm not even a big fan of Pochettino as a manager. I don't think he's as good as many people make him out to be. I think he's decent. I think he's very good if you're playing for a upper mid-table team like Spurs, like Espanyol, because I think then all the players buy into everything he says, and of course his counter-pressing and his energetic transition attacks work. It's easy to sell that to upper mid-table players, right? And so that he's like a less impressive version of Unai Emery, basically. Shout out Unai Emery, by the way, just beat Juventus 3-0 in Turin. What a man! So Poch, I'm not so sure. Monaco decent, Monaco half decent team, but I just think PSG have too much talent. Ultimately, like you've got Mbappe playing fantastically well. Messi, you figure at some point he's going to stop sucking. I don't know when it's going to be. He's been so average for PSG in Liga. In the Champions League, he's been actually quite good. I mean, he was really good for 70 minutes against Real Madrid, ran the show, and then PSG buckled, and he was just like left going, what the hell's going on here? Because of course, physically, he can't take a game by the scruff of the neck anymore. PSG have too much talent. Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, Verratti, they're too good.
Well, they might have too much talent in terms of scoring goals, but in Aurelien Tchouameni, Monaco have a real star.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have the star names that PSG have in Messi and Neymar, but this guy, I've just said before about Ebusele, this guy is definitely 100% going to be a star, and he's got this ability to do everything, to almost tick every box that you need from a midfielder. Progressive passes into the final third. He's in the top 5 in Ligue 1 this season. He's 5th for tackles. He's top of the shop for interception. So he's all action. He can do everything. He can win the ball for you. He can get forward. He can create chances. And that's somewhere where PSG have been found lacking. We look at the Champions League game against Real Madrid. Once Modric spotted a gap and spotted a space, he was able to exploit that. Tchouameni is obviously much younger, but he's developing into a really talented player and potentially could be on the way out this summer. We know that Monaco have a history of selling players. Does having someone like him in the team give Monaco a chance?
I mean, look, he's phenomenal. Fabregas has been absolutely going crazy about this guy, saying he's like the modern midfield player, has the potential to be complete midfielder. And Fabregas would know a thing or two about midfielders, right? Both from who he is, was as a player, and who he played with as players as well. Like this guy played with some of the best midfielders. I mean, he literally played with the greatest central midfielder of all time, so he knows midfielders, right? He played with Xavi, he played with Iniesta, Busquets. He knows midfielders. Xabi Alonso. I mean, Santi Cazorla himself, like he knows midfielders, right? This guy knows. So he's saying, "Kids, the real deal. This kid's the real deal." But I didn't give them a chance. But I just think PSG will have too much. I think, as much as I'd love, it'd be funny to tell if Monaco won. But I think in the end, I think maybe Monaco 1, PSG 2.
Okay, I'm going to go for a draw in this. I just think PSG, it's like a balloon being let down. They've lost to Nantes, they've lost to Nice. I know they bounced back and beat Bordeaux last weekend, but Bordeaux are bottom and more than likely going to get relegated. So I just think they want the season to end. They're going to lift it. They're going to lift the trophy like this. Yay! And then that's going to be the end of the season for them. So yeah, I'm going for a 1-1. What did you say? 2-1 to PSG.
2-1 PSG. Yeah.
2-1 PSG.
Mbappe
Okay, fair enough. Right.
Minute. Something like that.
Mbappe last minute. No, I'm going for a draw and Tchouaméni masterclass incoming, and I can't wait for it because I think he's brilliant. Continuing the theme of elite midfielders, Fabregas, Tchouaméni, we had Arteta and Gerrard at the beginning of the show. A bona fide leading Premier League midfield derby this weekend at Selhurst Park. Patrick Vieira up against Frank Lampard, FA Cup quarter-final. We know it's not going well for Lampard at Everton, and it is going well for Vieira at Palace. He's doing absolutely brilliantly so far, and Frank Lampard has bigger fish to fry, primarily keeping Everton in the Premier League. So I'm going to give Lampard a bit of a break this week because he needs it. He deserves it probably. And I want to talk about Pat Vieira. If he gets through this game and gets to the semi-final, potentially even further into a final, he's in a really strong position to get Palace into the top 10, which I think would be only the second time they've ever done it in the Premier League. Does that make him the best manager outside the top 6? I'm not going to get into a comparison with Guardiola and Klopp because it's ridiculous.
Graham Potter is the best manager outside the top 6.
But, over Vieira.
But Patrick Vieira it's proven. He's done it multiple seasons, and Brighton have played beautiful fluid football. If he had a half-decent striker, Brighton would have broken into the top 6. Remember that. Never forget that. Brighton were a good strike away from actually really blowing the league up and really shocking some people. Vieira is fantastic though, and it really warms my heart to see it because honestly, until he joined Palace, I thought this guy's not that good. He didn't look like he was up to much. He was managing some random city's American team. It didn't look like he was going to be a good manager. And you're thinking that's a shame because he was obviously magnificent as a footballer, like really amazing, and he had a great vision. He had a great brain understanding of the game. You're thinking this guy's going to be a manager, surely. And no, but now you're seeing, and not only is he managing Palace to do well, but they're really playing progressive football. They're really fun to watch. So, yeah, I love Palace. Fantastic, great club, great kit. South London representing, love it. It's great to see. I'm from the South London, so it's I love Palace. A lot of respect for Palace. Vieira's doing excellently there. I think he's one of him, the way he's got Conor Gallagher kicking on. I mean, Conor Gallagher's great anyway, right? He was going to be good, but Vieira's really got him going on. Mark Gay, he's really been solid at the back. It's a big question, but has he been the best performing English centre back this season? Is there a better English?
He's up there.
I mean, is there a better English centre? Damn sure not Maguire. No. So he's been really good.
No, he's up there. He's in the conversation for sure.
Really
give us your.
I think
give us your call on this.
1-0 Palace. I don't think they're going to run rush. I think Everton are going to fight like tooth and nail because, like you said, this is all they've got really, and relegation, avoiding relegation. So, but I think they'll fight tooth and nail. And I don't think Palace are necessarily massively prolific, but I think they'll have just enough to get by. 1-0 Palace.
I'm going to go slightly better. I'm going to go 2-0 Palace. I just think Everton are too distracted, and you can't blame Lampard and Everton for that. I know the fans have been pushing for a trophy or a final appearance for so long, but I just think it's all hands to the pump in keeping them in the Premier League, and that'll affect them. Palace are safe in the Premier League, probably, and I think Vieira is going to get them into the semi-final. So 2-0 Palace for me. Right, we're going to flick back to the Premier League. It's a bit of a mix and match weekend with the FA Cup and the Premier League this weekend. So Leicester at home to Brentford, back-to-back wins for Brentford, first time they've done it in the Premier League, and the Christian Eriksen Ivan Toney link-up is already working. It's already in business, but they've only won 3 games away from home in the Premier League this season. They've probably done enough, to stay in the Premier League, but can they get a third win in a row, which they won't have done at any point this season?
Yes, is my short answer. My long answer is yeah, baby. Listen. Leicester are. How can I say this? Right, they're distracted. They're playing in Europe. They've got Europa League UEFA Conference League. Right, juggling Europe and domestic fixtures is difficult. Right, they lost to Arsenal after playing Rennes. They beat Rennes. They lost to Arsenal. right? They're going to have second leg against Rennes, which is away from home. So even though they're winning 2-0, you can't really sort of take it off. They can't just be chilling and just having a good time. They've got to take it seriously because otherwise they could get spun. So that's take that seriously. So then they're going to go play Brentford, right? Now Brentford is not an easy game. They're not an easy. I know it's away from home. They're not as good as they are at home. They're really good at home. But I think with Ivan Toney, with Christian Eriksen now in the team, like you say, the quality players Brentford have got, I think they'll come unstuck. If I'm being perfectly honest.
I'm going to go for a draw. I think Brentford are moving in the right direction, but I just think it's a case of racking points up on the blackboard for Thomas Frank between now and the end of the season. Leicester haven't really done brilliantly when they're coming off a European game, whether it's Europa League or now the Europa Conference League. So I'm going to go for 1-1. Give Leicester a bit of a chance.
I think 2-1.
But I think Brentford are. I think Brentford are okay, but I'm going to go 1-1 as a prediction for this one.
Eriksen late free kick.
I'm going to go Eriksen assist, Toney goal. I think I'm going to go for that. I just think that their link ups have been brilliant, so I'm going to go 1-1 draw, Eriksen assist, but a Toney goal for Brentford. FA Cup back in business. Southampton at home to Manchester City. Saints have done well against big teams so far this season. They've not lost to Manchester City, and City do have this record of pesky mid-table teams causing problems for Pep. Spurs. I love calling Spurs mid-table. Spurs have got 6 points off them this season, but they are in the middle bit of the table, so I'm calling them mid-table. Southampton have got 2 points off them, and Palace, obviously on the back of Monday night, have got 4 points off them. So teams in that area of the table who do play very different styles, Southampton, Palace and Tottenham, don't play a similar way, but they do cause problems for City. And there's the possibility for an upset here.
There definitely is, but less so because it's not a league game, which sounds absurd to say, I know. But the thing with Southampton is the way that they adjust their pressing and they adjust their block, they move a bit deeper, they press in the middle. It really unsettles the way City love opponents to be passive against them and to either come out and attack them quite stupidly or sit back and defend, but just do it passively. Southampton sit back and defend, but do it aggressively and intelligently, and that they really know how to defend space. Ralph Hasenhüttl is a fantastic coach. And again, another candidate for best manager outside the top 6, I would say. Actually, sorry, Patrick, maybe down to number 3. So I mean, it would be nice to predict a massive upset here, but I think City will want to get the cup, keep going in the cup, get back to Wembley. They're really good at doing it. It's a cup game, so it's not. I guess there's always a potential for Zach Steffen to make a mistake and let Southampton in, I suppose, because it's a cup game. It's not Ederson in goal, but I'm going to say 1-0 City.
I'm going to go 2-0 City, and I think there's an extra layer to this. I think it's a psychological thing with Liverpool. Liverpool play on the Sunday, and I think we're going to see stride for stride between now and the end of the season, whether it's Premier League or FA Cup. If City can gain any little edge, put any little bit of extra pressure onto Liverpool, and vice versa, they're going to do it. And I think that will play a little bit of a role here. So I'm going to go 2-0 City. Southampton, be disappointed to see them go out the cup because I do like Ralph Hasenhüttl, but 2-0 City to go through to the next round. Right, back to Premier League, a London derby, Tottenham against West Ham. Spurs have been consistently inconsistent. That's the best way I can phrase this as a positive.
Yeah.
They are the epitome of 1 step forward, 2 steps back, particularly in the Premier League since Antonio Conte's come in. First little burst of positivity, 3 straight Premier League wins in 4, but since then they've only managed to win back-to-back Premier League games twice. And that's in the 4 months since Antonio Conte's come in. He's again said earlier this week that he's going to sit down for talks with Daniel Levy this summer. There's the ever-present threat that he might just walk away if they don't match his vision, if they don't match his ambition. So it's just this constant state of flux. And then on the opposite side, you've got West Ham, who are the picture of solidity with David Moyes, and they're not lying down in this battle for top 4 or for top 6. And I've got to say, before you make your prediction,
I knew you were going to say
you got both. I've just remembered you got both of these wrong. You said that Spurs would batter United. Not only did that not work, Cristiano Ronaldo broke a world record, and you said that West Ham would be tired after getting the Ryanair back from Sevilla, and they weren't. So be careful when you predict this, but go on.
I was amazed, by the way, about how well West Ham played after that Sevilla game, because watching that Sevilla game, I did not think they would then have much left in the tank for the game, and they did, and fair play, well done. As for United Spurs, look, man. It's
It happens. It happens.
Look, man. When he smacks one in from 25 yards to start the game, it's everything.
It's going in one direction.
Yeah, the whole thing changes, right? And it's like the man's played 2 good games all season. They've both been against Spurs. I should have seen it coming, but there you go. 41% of Cristiano Ronaldo's Premier League goals have come against Spurs. So that's anyway. I think Spurs will win this game. To be perfectly honest, as much as I would love to have West Ham win against Sevilla, and I mean that's going to be an amazing atmosphere at London Stadium. But even much as I'd love to have that win against Sevilla, then come back and win against Spurs, Harry Kane does really well against West Ham. He's got 11 goals against them. I'm pretty sure only against Everton and Leicester. That's one he always kills. Only against those 2 teams does he have more goals than his 11 against West Ham. So I think ultimately what will happen is, and he's in form. He just passed Frank Lampard all-time Premier League goal scoring list. Andy Cole is next in his sights. What I do think will happen is Harry Kane will score a hat-trick. That's basically what I think is going to happen. I think West Ham will play well. I think they'll probably even score a couple of times. I mean, if my score prediction is 3-2, I think West Ham will do really well. But I think Big Daddy Kane is just going to put the hammer down.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going for a Spurs win as well. Slightly tighter. I'm going for 2-1. Kane, as you say, has this fantastic record, and he's starting to click. He's starting to motor. He scored against Brighton in midweek, and West Ham are going to throw the kitchen sink against Sevilla. We know that. We know that this is an opportunity for them to win a major trophy. They're not going to lie down in the race for Europe. They'll get some form of European qualification for next season, but you do get the sense that they are tailing off in general, and the Sevilla game is going to drain them, whereas Spurs will be fresh. They've beaten Brighton. They've had an extra day's rest. So I'm going 2-1 Spurs in this one for Antonio Conte, and getting them back on track, but then they're going to fall off track again.
Oh yeah, obviously. Definitely. They're not going to be consistent, but they'll win this game.
No. Yeah, I'm going to agree. 2-1. Right, let's move on. Serie A Rome derby, AS Roma against Lazio, Jose Mourinho against Maurizio Sarri in a bit of a Chelsea off. But there's lots of Chelsea influence in this game, not just the 2 guys on the bench.
There's Chelsea influence everywhere because they hire and fire managers for fun, and then they buy and sell and loan players for fun. So everyone everywhere, it's like 5 degrees separation from Chelsea. You're never more than 5 degrees from a Chelsea player or Chelsea manager.
Well, someone who's not on loan, which is a bit of a strange one for Chelsea, is Tammy Abraham. He's permanently at Roma. And there was a bit of a raised eyebrow when he joined them because he was going to work with Mourinho. They hadn't really clicked when they were at Stamford Bridge together. He didn't kick a ball under him. And then, ironically, he's up against Sarri this weekend, who he got 20 minutes in the 2018 Community Shield against. So Jose's been proven wrong. We know that he's never going to admit that because he never does. But Tammy Abraham's been excellent for Roma this season. He's got 13 in Serie A and 20 in all competitions. Really, really impressive. Has Jose maybe swallowed his pride? He's never going to say it publicly, but has he swallowed his pride a little bit over Tammy Abraham?
No, I mean, yeah. When goal scorers score goals, you just let them do what they want. Remember, Mourinho didn't like Cristiano Ronaldo when he first got up at Real Madrid. He thought he was lazy, didn't press enough, and was just not suited to the way he wanted to play. But,
maybe he had a point.
But he had a point. But then the guy scores 50 goals a season, so then you let him do what he wants. This is the problem with Ronaldo, by the way. He stopped scoring 50 goals a season. If he still did that, no one could complain about tactical stuff, and that's always been the story with him. And so, yeah, with Mourinho's thing, if you score goals, he'll let you do what the hell you want. That's basically the long and short of it. If you score that man goals, he will let you get away with all kinds of stuff. Eden Hazard at Chelsea had dispensation to do whatever he wanted because Eden Hazard scored and made goals. Mesut Ozil at Real Madrid was lazy as hell. Mourinho would always hammer him in the press, always sub him off, but he always started him because the man made things happen, right? Mourinho wants results. That's primarily what he wants. If you get him results, he doesn't care. If he has to swallow his pride, he'll do that. He'll do that willingly, as long as he gets the win, because that's ultimately where he gets his real ego boost, right? So Tammy Abraham is scoring goals because Tammy Abraham, shock horror, is a great goal scorer. A really great goal scorer, like potentially a Champions League level goal scorer. Like he's never going to score 50 a season, maybe, but he's really, really good. Put him in a side that creates chances, he'll be really, really good. Like obviously not this Chelsea one. The Chelsea one is a bit of a different kind of team, but put him in a Man City, for instance, he'll rack up the goals. He would touch 50. I don't know. He's a really good goal scorer. He's a natural goal scorer. We've seen it all through his career. He's a born goal scorer. So he's doing well at Roma, and that's beautiful to see. But the thing is, Roma as a team are not as coherent and complete as Lazio. Lazio are much more punchy. They've got Pedro. Sarri's doing really well there. They always look they never look like they're in a game and then they suddenly appear and score a goal and you're like, oh, where'd that come from? So I would say this is probably 1-1. I think they'll cancel each other out in the end.
Given the fact that this is technically a home game, although there's no real home games when Lazio take on Roma because they share the Stadio Olimpico. This is technically a home game for Roma. I'm just going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go for 2-2. Neither of them are in amazing form based on Serie A over the last couple of weeks. Roma probably edging it in terms of results. They've got 2 wins from the last 5 in the league. Lazio have not been as consistent, but you throw the Europa League in for both of them and it's disrupted things. But Abraham could be a difference maker. I'm going to go for 2-2. Games between them do tend to be quite exciting and both of them score goals. But before we move on, Tammy Abraham, could he be a shout for England for the World Cup? Harry Kane is clicking back into gear. We know what an operator he is, but there's doubts over other positions. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's had injury issues. Marcus Rashford's form has dropped off. Could Abraham, 20 goals in all competitions, he's already bettered his record so far this season. He's probably going to break 25, maybe even touch 30 before the season's over. Could he be in Southgate's thinking? Should he be in Southgate's thinking?
I don't know if he could be. He absolutely should be. As in terms of English strikers, there's only one guy I'd take over Tammy Abraham right now, and that's Harry Kane. Like you said, the others have all fallen off for various reasons or another. You know, they've all had various issues. He's a goal scorer. He's a born goal scorer. He's almost the perfect kind of guy you take to be your backup because he doesn't necessarily need any sort of fancy system. He's a big guy and he can run and he can finish. And he's really smart as well. So he can even hold the ball up a little bit. Yeah, he's perfect. Take him. He absolutely should be going. And I mean, if he keeps scoring goals, and Kane picks up his usual injury, I would argue start the guy. But Kane hopefully won't pick up his usual injury. But let's see. But yeah, no, to me, Tammy Abraham is brilliant. I'm a massive fan of his. I really, really rate him quite highly. And I think, he's a natural goal scorer. Absolutely should be going to the World Cup, going to every England tournament for the next 10 years.
Final FA Cup game of the weekend, Nottingham Forest against Liverpool, and there's plenty of parallels to draw between Forest and Borough. We're going to have a right back off with Jed Spence against Trent Alexander-Arnold. They've done some giant killing of their own. They've knocked out the last 2 winners. They put out Arsenal and they put out Leicester City. It's going to be very interesting to look at these comparisons because we've got Isaiah Jones and Reece James on Saturday and then Spence and Trent on Sunday night because Jed Spence has got some rave reviews in the Championship this season and he's been, for me, up there as the player of the FA Cup. Michael Olise's been fantastic for Crystal Palace. He kept Gabriel Martinelli quiet. He kept Harvey Barnes very quiet. Ironically, this is the area that Trent is constantly questioned on, even though Jurgen Klopp comes out to bat for him and says, did you not just watch that game? He was the best defender on the pitch. And there's a little bit of man management from Klopp there, but Jed Spence's defensive qualities are arguably maybe what Trent misses.
Yeah. Trent's not a good defender. He's okay. He'll put shit in. He's not a shirker, but he's not a great defender. But you know what Trent is? Is the most ridiculous human being ever as a creative force in attack. Right? Look, no. Seriously, listen. Right? Mohamed Salah has an expected assist (XA) this season of 5.59. He's number 3 in the Premier League. Right? Bruno Fernandes, everyone he's having a rubbish season, by the way. You people are ridiculous. Bruno Fernandes is having has 5.83 expected assists this season. Right? Really creative. He's number 2 in the list. Trent is number 1. Guess what his XA is? He's 10.86. He's more than twice as good as the next guy. This man is such a ridiculous chance creation machine. And a good chance creation machine at that. From set pieces, from open play. Honestly, if his defensive effort was amounted to him scratching his bum while the wingers ran in behind him, I would still play this guy. What he does in attack is just, it's so utterly unappreciated because honestly, if he's not in that Liverpool team, they're about half as good. You know, and you saw against Arsenal, he wasn't very good against Arsenal because Martinelli put him on the back foot, right? And Liverpool, as a result, weren't really that great. Like they were good enough to beat Arsenal, but only just about really when they put their foot down really heavily and got a bit lucky with Ramsdale making a couple of mistakes. They didn't carve Arsenal open. Ramsdale was not flying all over his goal to save his life, right? Because Trent wasn't in what Trent was subdued. So now the question comes, can Forest do that? No. With all due respect, Forest aren't Arsenal. Liverpool And also, Ian, we talk about great players want to respond to things. Liverpool will want to respond to this. Now, they lost recently to Inter. Okay, they want to respond to that. They didn't really play too well against Arsenal. They got the win, didn't play too well. They want to respond to that. They're heading into an international break. Klopp want to head into that into fun. They have a chance to get to a semi-final. Remember, the quadruple is still on for Liverpool here. So they're going to take this incredibly seriously. They're going to be incredibly focused. Trent is going to be, if he plays, he's going to be absolutely on it. I think they're going to win 4-0, honestly.
I'll go for a little bit less. I'll go for 3-0. And primarily for the reasons that you've just said. And I think it's an interesting one with Trent because in a different situation, maybe he might get rested, he might bring James Milner in. But I think given the fact that he's probably going to get called up for England, but not definitely play, Jurgen Klopp knows that it's not going to be a massively demanding international break. So he can afford to play Trent Alexander-Arnold in this game, knowing that he's not going to be overstretched while he's away with England and still come back fresh.
They were all of them, Klopp and Robertson, both said after the game, I thought Trent defended Martinelli really well. And he didn't. And they knew he didn't, but they were trying to big him up. So then Klopp will know he needs the confidence boost. And what better confidence could you get than, I don't know, I mean, let's say 2 assists, at least a hat-trick assist maybe against Forest. He's that good, he could do it. He's really just utterly phenomenal. England are so lucky to have him. If Harry Kane is the best English player, and he is, Trent is number 2 for me. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, so I'm going with Liverpool through to the next round. Just looking back over the predictions that we've gone for, I think the only one that we disagreed on was Borough-Chelsea. So you've gone for Borough, I've gone for Chelsea. We both agreed on Palace into the last 4. We both agreed on Man City, and we're both agreeing on Liverpool going through. So we're going to check back on this next week. Mo's got a mixed record, shall we say, on his predictions. So we'll make sure that we touch base with this again next week. Right, final game, and it's a hell of a one to wrap up the weekend. El Clásico in Madrid. Real Madrid up against Barcelona. Looking at the previous records, Real Madrid have dominated in the last couple of seasons. They've got 4 straight wins, unbeaten in 5. The last time Barcelona beat Real Madrid was at the Bernabeu in March 2019. And even Rakitic, who scored the winner, isn't even at Barcelona anymore. So that maybe gives you a window into the changes that have gone on at Barcelona. Ousmane Dembele is coming back into form. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is knocking in goals. They've got the best young stretch of players since Xavi himself was playing, with the likes of Gavi, Pedri, Ansu Fati. I know he's out, but he's still a fantastic player. Real Madrid are playing the old records, but they're still working. Luka Modric is still running the midfield. Karim Benzema is still absolutely superb and knocking in goals. He is a bit of an injury doubt for this weekend, but I imagine Carlo will sprinkle a little bit of magic sponge on him and he'll probably play. Real Madrid have probably got the title sewn up. They're 10 points clear as it stands. Xavi isn't giving up. But this is probably more about Barcelona taking a swing and reminding Real Madrid that they're still here and they'll be back next season.
Yeah, it reminds me of 2003 or 4, first season of Joan Laporta, the first time when Barca were, obviously they weren't going to win the title. They finished 4th, I think, or 3rd. And they were playing Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. They'd lost to them at the Camp Nou early in the season, and they won 2-1. Xavi scored the winner, running a little scoop pass over the defence. Xavi volleyed it over Casillas. It reminds me of that. It's like you said, it's to say, look, we're back. We're not back. We're not all the way back, but we are not a joke anymore.
Well, we're back.
Lost 4 Clásicos in a row. Look, Barca have lost 4 Clásicos in a row. The last time they did that, they lost 6 in a row. It was in the 60s. That's the most anyone's ever lost in a row. Barca won 5 in a row, so Madrid lost 5 in a row. With the start of the Pep era. The first Pep Clásico 2-0, then 6-2, then 1-0, then 2-0, then 5-0, and then obviously they drew 1-1 in the just before the Champions League with those 2 penalties from Messi and Ronaldo. So Madrid have lost 5 in a row before. Barca have lost 6 in a row before. 4 in a row is really, like, it's the 60s is the first time. It's really embarrassing. They've gone through some different managers. Barca have been a mess. Barca were never really close to winning any of those games. Maybe you could argue the 2-1 last season where Mingueza scored, because they really should have equalised. Elisha Moriba hit the bar, I think, late in the game. They really should have equalised in that game, and that shouldn't have been a defeat. But the others, they've not even been close in, not even remotely close.
Yeah.
And Real Madrid won at the Camp Nou early in the season, and they won there so easily. They didn't even really have to try. They didn't have to put their foot down too much at all. But now Xavi's in charge, and that's going to change everything, because Barca looks so much better under Xavi. They look like a good football team, and it's remarkable. Benzema obviously is probably the best player in the world, along with Mohamed Salah right now. But he's, like you said, he's not going to be 100% fit. You know, we saw what he can do against PSG. Like, you give him half a chance, he'll kill you. But, Gerard Piqué has always done well against him, right? Ronald Araujo is going to be fit this time. He wasn't fit in the last Clásico. He's a huge factor. Ronald Araujo is a phenomenal defender, like really aggressive, really talented, really physical, really athletic, dynamic, really intelligent, really smart, senses danger brilliantly. He's going to be a world-class centre half. He's going to be one of the best in the world when he gets going. He's like 23 now. He's still young. So Barca got this great young team. Pedri, Xavi, Busquets as a midfield three is so good. Frankie de Jong legitimately couldn't complain if he was left out of the starting 11. And he's playing well now, by the way, I might add.
Yeah.
But that's how good Pedri, Xavi, and Busquets are. Aubameyang's been a revelation up front. 5 goals in 6 games. He's really killing it. He looks settled. He looks comfortable in the team. He understands. Obviously, he speaks Spanish, right? Because his mum's from Spain. So he's settled in there almost instantly. There's not been any adaptation at all. Ferran Torres is the secret weapon, I think. I'll come back to him in a minute. Adama Traore is killing it with the dribbling. He's really providing a threat on the right. Ousmane Dembele hopefully will start on the bench because I think he's so much better off the bench. He comes on and he's just full of fury and teams don't know how to handle him. So Barcelona have gone from being a joke, which they were a joke under Ronald Koeman, to now they're actually a serious team again. And Ferran Torres, I think, is a secret weapon because his movement is different level. His ability to find space and find goal-scoring chances for himself is ridiculous. He's so good at it. And his finishing isn't fully locked in yet at Barca. He's been a bit erratic. He's missed some big chances. Obviously, famously missed like 4 golden chances against Napoli at the Camp Nou. And was like crying afterwards because of the chances he missed. But he's the secret weapon for me because obviously, if you're Real Madrid, you're going to devote your energies to stopping Aubameyang, right? You're going to devote your energies. Oh, look, Adama Traore, let's stop him from going, or Dembele, let's stop him. Ferran Torres gets overlooked, and he's the secret little weapon because he's a lethal finisher and his movement's really clever. And if once he starts scoring consistently, he might never stop. He's that good of a finisher, that natural finisher, as City fans and Spain fans will be able to attest to. So, but Madrid are phenomenal in themselves, right? Like you said, like you talk about Barca, this young team they're building. Madrid are just the veterans. Everyone knows what they're doing, and they've managed to replace Varane and Ramos and not really lose too much. I mean, admittedly, that's because Ramos was never really a very good defender. But Alaba's come in and is basically the same thing as Ramos. He's a good defender. He's a fantastic leader and a magnificent force going forward, which is basically what Ramos was. Except Alaba's quicker than Ramos, so that helps. Eder Militao is not quite as good as Varane, but he's still good. But what they make up for is, of course, Courtois is better than he's ever been. He's utterly like 2013-14 winning La Liga. Thiago Courtois, he's that good again. He's just ridiculous, and he's not playing behind a defensive line 10 yards in front of him now. It's a Real Madrid line, so they're further ahead of him. And then up front, obviously Benzema, Vinicius, brilliant. Asensio's coming into his own, doing well. Rodrigo's doing well, but it's the midfield, isn't it? It's those three.
The 3 boys.
It's the lads, isn't it? It's the lads. It's one of the greatest midfield threes we've ever seen. Not quite Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, but nothing is. These guys are fantastic. They're magnificent. Luka Modric is. Honestly, I mean, look, I'll get to Modric in a minute because I want to talk about Modric for a while. Casemiro is really good, really, really solid. He's really becoming a properly world-class defensive midfielder. He was always good, right? And he was always very useful because he was an amazing tackler, which meant he covered for Cruz really well. But he was never like amazing at defending space. But he's really becoming that way. And he's really, really good now. He's a real leader as well, obviously, and he really can drive forward too. Tony Cruz, I mean, look, what do you say? But what more can you say about the guy? Pass master. Pass. He'll have a 90% completion in this game. I know he will. He might even score. He might bend the ball into. He's very good. But Modric is the guy because Matt, listen, for 70 minutes,
Benjamin Button. He's Benjamin Button.
No, but do you know what? In one game, he's Benjamin Button because for 70 minutes against PSG, he looked rubbish. It's like this guy looks like he's every inch of 36 years old. He's chasing shadows. He can't get near Marco Verratti. What's going on? And then Tony Cruz goes off. Camavinga comes on. And it's almost like I said to Luka, look, go on, you just go now. Just go. Go full Croatia 2018 on him. And it was like, okay. And suddenly something switched and he just took over the game. Completely like, right, this game is mine now. Marco, you sit down. Leandro, well, you're off the pitch now, but you go away. It's my game now. And he ran the show for 20 minutes. He was like, just killed. Every time he touched the ball, it was like, oh, God. You could sense the dread in PSG. The second Madrid goal, the Benzema goal, 2 world-class passes within the space of 30 seconds. He's phenomenal. He's amazing. And what the best thing about it is now Busquets is playing well as well. Busquets versus Modric has been probably my favourite duel over the last decade of football. Watching these two duke it out every year in the Clásico has been a privilege. It's such a fantastic midfield battle. Watch it. Keep a close eye on it this on at the weekend, guys. Modric versus Busquets, it's going to be fantastic. And now we've got the additions of like Pedri versus Casemiro, Cruz versus Gavi, or whatever, and that's going to be fun too. But Busquets and Modric are the pillars of those two teams, and watching them duke out is going to be a treat. It's going to be so good.
Right, so come on, call this for us. I'll give my prediction. I'll let you go first. Give us your prediction.
I mean, look, it could be anything. It's a Clásico, honestly. I just think it's been 4 wins in a row for Real Madrid. I think they've done really well. They've dominated Barca, but Barca they're going to want a statement win. They almost had a statement in the Super Cup, but they just ran out of legs. They got tired. They went to extra time and whatnot. Xavi was still new. Xavi's been there a while now. They've got Aubameyang in now. I think Barca are going to win 3-2. I think I think Ferran Torres, I think he's going to be the secret weapon. I think he's going to score at least once. And I think Real Madrid aren't going to know how to keep him quiet. I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup, though. And you definitely can't count Real Madrid out from getting something from this game. But I just think Barca will have enough to edge it. But it's going to be great. It's going to be really, really good. Watching, by the way, if Barca don't to start 38-year-old Dani Alves against Vinicius Jr., that is not going to end well. But at the same time, I want to start Dani Alves because I want Real Madrid to start Marcelo. I want those two old timers to have a little duke out a little bit on that flank. That would be fun. But no, I think 3-2 Barca.
I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 1-1.
Yeah.
I don't think Barcelona just yet have enough to go into the Lions' den and do it. I think Xavi is getting them moving in the right direction. I think the one big caveat for Barcelona now is that Xavi's methods are starting to work. I think if this was November or December, Carlo would basically just give them a little rub on the head, beat them 3-0, and send them on their way back to Barcelona. But I think we're dealing with a different Barcelona, but we're not dealing with a finished product Barcelona.
No,
I think this time next season that could go down, but I'm gonna go for 1-1. Mo, just quickly before we call it a day, your final thoughts for the weekend?
I'm excited, mate. It's gonna be a wicked weekend of football. Always a good weekend when the Clásico's on. Always a good weekend. It's a shame the FA Cup has meant we don't get Man United Liverpool as well as the Clásico. Like that would have been really blockbuster. But FA Cup's got some good stuff too, so it's going to be fun. Who doesn't love a good weekend of football with a Clásico in it? My goodness.
Yeah, and we're going to go with the right back Oscars. I'm going to ask you about that next week. So we're going to have Isaiah Jones, Reece James, Jed Spence, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Dani Alves. We're going to have the right back Oscars next week. We look forward to. But we're gonna call it a day for today on the Squawka Talker podcast. Mo, solo running today, brilliant job. Thanks very much.
No worries, my friend. Good sub to you too.
Great stuff indeed. Don't forget to hit subscribe on this episode. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. So if you do hit subscribe, you can get access to that as soon as it is ready. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll speak to you again very soon.